Alright, well, hello everybody. I thought I would do one more video before we keep going and proceed forward with all the physics editing for this month. And what we got going on here in the work folder, I have the original file that everyone has who got the editor, and a couple of other files with GM crate engines. However, let's open up this test file, and as you could see right there, COP, GNS, CTS, and PTA physics. This CSV file has engine profiles for all the four physics all in one. So if you are to change all of these numbers, it's going to affect every single engine in game. Also, this transmission ratios and AI diff ratios, we found no proof to what they affect and what they don't. And for now, I prefer to stick to engines only. So I'm not going to introduce any changes or anything new to those, so you could just simply delete the lines out of your CSV. Okay, so we got all the engines from all four physics in this file. Let's open the GM602 file that I was working on for the CTS physics version. The slowest out of the three crate engines introduced. As always, open with comma. And you could notice how small this CSV file is compared to the other one. That is because it only has the engine 11 and engine 12 lines for the CTS physics. So it will only affect CTS engines, the two CTS engines that are in game, and it will not affect any other engines and any other physics as well. We have not decided yet a proper approach to this engine only edits, whether to just do the physics that you're making and break all the other engines, or just change all of them. For now, we're not sure. Anyway, I'm going to make a copy of that file, of the full engine profile. Let me call it full engine profile because it has all the engines for all the physics in there. And I made a copy of that file and renamed it to GM602 full, which means it's going to be a GM602 engine profile. Full means for all the engines and all the physics. I just realized that I currently don't have a current updated CSV file that covers all the engines for the creators. Anyway, make sure that you name it 602 full exe CSV at the end. It has to be exe CSV, otherwise it will not work. So no matter what kind of name you give it, the last part of it has to be exe.csv. That's how the physics editor reads those files. And right now it looks like we're making CT525, the last and the fastest out of the three engine, the full profiles. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the small CTS profile and transfer it into a big full profile for the engine. Let's name the original full profile ZZZ so it always shows up at the bottom. And now let's open our original CTS only GM602. That's the slow engine, 350 horses. And then let's open a blank that has all the engines, the full CSV edit. And what it looks like to me is that I already used the 602 profile for this engine for all of them. And yeah, let me just double check and make sure that all the values match, and I think this step has been already done and I just have to do the other two engines. Anyway, this video might not be too entertaining for some, definitely not, but I just have to cover like basic two differences in the engine only A1 edits. Like, how complicated can it be? Well, at least it could get this complicated. You could do only one or two engines for specific physics, or you could change all the engines and all the values on specific physics, on all the physics. Cooling, water cooling, oil cooling, I'm not gonna mess with. I will leave that stock for now. Same as maximum horsepower. I really don't believe that value affects anything. The peak power value, you could change it to 10,000 and you're not gonna get any extra horsepower out of it. So I will leave those values stock for now until the next test. Anyway, moving out to GM604, and that's the middle engine in power, about 400 horsepower and 400 torque, really good one. And now we're gonna need to dial in some values. torque 1, as you could see, is at 100 bmep, just 10 more than the 602. I thought this would be a nice progression for torque 1, even though you have to do some test runs and figure out your torque 1 on your own. But you have to start from somewhere, and I think 100 is a good baseline. Then maximum torque for this engine is made at 4600 rpm at 175 bmep. That's the maximum bmep that this engine can produce. It's all mathematically proven. Of course, I'm not gonna go over it because I went over it like 2000 times already. But I could back up every number with mathematical equations and whatever, it all lines up. Alright, then torque 3 is the maximum horsepower at which the engine can produce, at RPM the engine can produce. It's 5600 RPM for RPM 3, 163 bmep of torque. It's a 350, same stroke. What is different on this engine are bigger intake valves and better heads. That's from real life, I know they have better heads. So better breathing, more air in, more air out, meaning more power. So that's where the extra 50 horsepower come through in real life, is from bigger intake valves and better flow. I think 602 has iron heads and 604 has aluminum better heads, but don't take my word for it. Anyway, this profile is all dialed in and finished. Save that. Always keep current format. The last one is the fastest boy on the block. It's CT525 because it is making 525 horsepower supposedly at the crank. And here is the profile to the left with all the numbers already calculated for engines 11 and 12 on the CTS physics. 110 on torque 1 plus another 10 to keep it like nice progression between all the three engines. Now notice RPM 2 is way higher than anything we've seen so far. It's at 5200 RPM. That's maximum torque of 191 bmep psi, cylinder pressure over piston area, whatever. I'm going too scientific there. Anyway, maximum power 6600 RPM. Of course, it's not any close to our NASCAR stock engines, which run about 9000 RPM, but 6000 RPM, 66 is not bad at all. Then torque 3 is 170 psi, bmep. What's different in this engine? This engine is a little bigger. It has bigger stroke, and because of that, it ends up running into 376 cylinder cubic inches of displacement. Right there, you could see 376, so it's a little bit bigger engine than the other two. Usually it is used in super late models and a little higher levels of racing. They were even talking about introducing this engine as an option for CTS trucks in 2019 season or something like that I've heard. Way bigger intake valves. Notice they're even bigger than the stock NASCAR valves. And that's kind of cool. Different regulations, different rules. Red line set at 12,000 just for testing purposes. I'll show you why. And the rest of them I'm not gonna mess with. Save all three files, and now take a look. I have CSV files for all three GM crate motors for CTS physics only, or for all engines and all physics at the same time. And that makes up the selection and the video for today. Just thought that I would cover that before we go on.